Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
I'm really happy to introduce you to today's guest, Lela Bryan, founder and chief learning officer of Nicotine Solutions. Lela quit smoking happily and permanently on June 4th, 1978. She has been successfully teaching others how to quit smoking and chewing ever since. Originally a high school teacher, Lela found her true calling when, after 16 years of smoking, she finally discovered a way to quit that actually worked. Determined to spread the word, Lela decided to leave the school system and use her teaching skills to help people quit smoking instead. Since then, she has taught smoking cessation classes all over the world. Thanks to her step-by-step, hold-your-hand approach, Lela's students consistently experience the highest success rates of any system in the world. That's 90%. 90% of her students stop smoking by the end of the program. Nicotine Solutions program is taught as a teleconference, so Lela can help anyone, anywhere, quit smoking or chewing. The Nicotine Solutions program uses a multifaceted approach to quitting smoking or chewing by changing behavior and routines, learning to deal with stress, dealing with emotions, and detoxifying from nicotine without using drugs or gaining weight. Students smoke while they go through the program so they do not experience the horrible side effects of cold turkey. She's been teaching smoking cessation for so long that she has a new website and title. She's now called the Quit Queen, and she's got a crown and everything to prove it. So you can check that out at her website, thequitqueen.com. Welcome, Lela.
Oh, thank you.
It's so funny because as I was talking about you, I was actually starting to think about my own son who started smoking, and boy, would he love to quit and save all that money that you could save. Because recently I just did a little bit of research and I found out that over the lifetime of smoking, that a pack-a-day smoker could spend anywhere from $1 million to $2 million just on smoking one pack a day over their lifetime. So it was just kind of like, wow, that's really crazy. So tell me, Lela, who is it that you help?
Well, basically, I help men and women. Actually, it's 75% women nowadays. When I first started out, it was 75% men, but now it's 75% women, usually between the age groups of 25 and 70. And most of my students are usually 30, 35. You have to kind of start experiencing the fact that, oh, I'm not going to live forever and I've got all these aches and pains and I'm not breathing very well or something like that to really start to say, maybe I better quit smoking, or maybe this is affecting me.
I can understand that, because when we're young, we think we're going to live forever.
Exactly.
And we're, even if we smoke and drink and do whatever, we're still running around and our energy levels are still pretty good. And then as we do get about 30, 35, we start to say, I'm not quite as, up to things as I used to be. So how does this program work? You say that you can actually do this with a teleseminar?
Yes, and originally I taught everything in hospitals and companies in person. And I started to think, maybe I could learn how to teach this as a teleseminar. So I tested it out and I thought, well, I don't know if this is really going to work as a teleseminar, but so I tested it out with like 3 people, and I and I got 100% success rate. And then I did 5, and then the success rate kept the same until I got to 11 people in my teleconference, and then the success rate went from 90 to 100% down to 50%. So I said, I will make a cutoff point at 9 people, and because the class is very interactive, and I virtually hold everybody's hand, and it's very accountable. So that's what I do is I have people smoke as they learn how to quit. And it's a teleconference, and they dial into a phone bridge, and everybody's sort of talking like we are back and forth, only everybody, we have an interactive conversation, and they listen to a little bit of information before they come on the call, and then it's a group conference call, and everybody after a while acts like they're old war buddies or something. They get to know each other really, really well.
I imagine that you would get to know other people very well, and it's interesting that you came up with that magic number of 9. Because, like you said, just by adding 2 more people, the success rate dropped by such a huge percentage. That's really interesting. So when people are smoking, what are the problems that you would solve for them? And what is it that they really think that you can offer to them that maybe they can't do on their own?
Well, by the time they find me, Nicotine Solutions, they've really tried a lot of things. They've tried cold turkey, and if they were like me, I quit in 1978, and I would have smoked in the shower if I could have kept them lit. I loved smoking. And so by the time they get to me, they have tried cold turkey, and that didn't work because everybody was begging them to start smoking again because they were so nasty and cranky as a non-smoker. And maybe they've gained weight, or maybe they've tried hypnosis or acupuncture, and they've probably tried quite a few things. And by the time they find my program, they're kind of jaded, and they say, well, what's going to be different about this than all the other things that I've tried? Maybe they've tried nicotine replacement therapy or some of the drugs like Chantix or Wellbutrin. And what I can offer them is I can show them that it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. And I have them smoke for 42 days just to make sure. And what they do is you can't change habits all in one day. And so what happens is that they can start to change gradually with little baby steps while they're still smoking. So they change. They start to detoxify. They start to learn how to deal with stress. They learn how to change their routines and their behaviors. They even change their mindset. I even have them change their language around quitting. A lot of people, if they are going to quit smoking or they're going to quit drinking, even I hear people that are trainers in the field, especially I hear it around people that are going to quit drinking. They say, oh, when are you going to give up smoking, or when are you going to give up drinking? And anytime I hear somebody say, I'm going to give up something, I like to give the example of somebody that had some really smelly, stinky garbage. And if you were going to take the garbage out, you wouldn't say, I'm going to give up the garbage, because that garbage is not precious to that to them, because they want to get rid of it. And so what you want to say is, when you're quitting smoking is I'm in the process of getting rid of the habit, or I don't smoke anymore, or rather than I'm giving up the habit. Because if you are giving up something and you want it back, because you gave it up because you feel deprived, then will you get it back? Yeah, probably. So you want to even change your language around, not say giving up, I'm getting rid of it, or I'm in the process of letting it go, or whatever. So what I do is I have them gradually change their behaviors so it becomes a permanent change and they're happy about it, rather than feeling like they're cranky and they gave up something and they want it back.
So how often are the teleseminars?
So the teleseminars are once a week for 8 weeks for about an hour a session, and there's a little bit of pre-prep that they listen to on their own. They just click a link and listen to the pre-preparation. And some of the pre-preparation is something that some of the students like to listen to over and over again, because I teach. There's one technique that I teach them, a breathing technique that they can substitute breathing for smoking and get the same head rush as a cigarette. Oxygen, what a concept.
Okay, so you
different.
So once a week for about an hour, they're on a call and they're interacting with you and the group, so they have that accountability is built into the program. And then you're helping them deal with a habit, and you're allowing them to continue the habit, but at the same time you're teaching them how to change the way they think about the habit, so that at some point they don't have the habit anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, that's probably the real simplified version, because I used to be a smoker also, and how I quit was by getting a severe case of bronchitis, and I couldn't breathe, let alone smoke. And so I took that opportunity to quit smoking. And I'm not saying that there weren't times that I wanted to smoke again, but it was like, hey, you've already not smoked for so long, just don't,
Right.
go find something else. But the weight gain, I really do think that I did gain weight, because you substitute that, I guess, the oral fixation or whatever it is. And then I imagine you have some withdrawals associated with that. Do you find that women and men withdraw from nicotine and cigarette smoking in a different way?
Well, there is a hormonal change that I've noticed between men and women. Women just have it is more, women notice it more because of the hormones. And so I don't think, sometimes people will say, oh, women have a harder time with quitting smoking. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but there are some hormone changes. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years, I'm 68, so I've been through the menopause and all this sort of thing. And what I've noticed is, for women in perimenopause or menopause, some of the women were like crying through the whole class, and they would say stuff like, is this hot flash from quitting smoking, or is it from menopause? And I said, well, it's a little bit of both. And so sometimes, depending on what your age and if you want to quit smoking, I can show you how to distinguish between, oh, this is about quitting smoking, because a lot of the symptoms of recovery, I always try to couch it in a positive way. So symptoms of recovery might be also mimic the menopause symptoms. So it's kind of nice to know, is this really menopause, or if is it the fact that you're detoxifying from nicotine and quitting smoking?
Interesting. I have a question, since we're kind of talking about the women's health issues. So many times, women, younger women, um, who smoke, maybe they'd like to quit smoking because they want to have a family. Does smoking affect fertility, or obviously it's not healthy to smoke while you're pregnant, but does it affect your fertility and, I guess, feminine health issues?
Absolutely. And one of my several of my students, but I get fan mail every once in a while, and I had a lady and her husband. They both went through the class, and she wrote me a letter with a birth announcement saying that she was trying to get pregnant the whole time, and until she went through Nicotine Solutions, she said that she couldn't conceive, and she attributes it to the fact that she and her husband both quit smoking, and then about a year later, she sent the birth announcement. So she had been struggling to get pregnant. So it does have an effect on men and women, because after I got that fan mail or the mail, and I looked it up, and I said, oh, it really affects men as well.
Well, that's actually very interesting, because I don't think a lot of people, think about those type of things, because cigarette smoking it isn't like it's a drug in terms of you have to get a prescription or it's illegal. It's one of those,
Right.
drugs that's been accepted into society. And then of course they are going, well, what are all the side effects? And for the longest time, people, it was like they poo-pooed all of those health risks that come along with smoking. And of course now, we know a lot more than that. So here's a question about going cold turkey. I don't really think that when I quit smoking, it was cold turkey per se, because of the fact that I was so sick that my body rejected,
Right.
anything that made it so that it couldn't heal. And back when I smoked, I constantly had bronchitis. I constantly had a cold. And since I quit smoking, to be honest, I don't really think I've been sick with anything. Maybe a sore throat, but really I do not get colds like I used to. It used to be like constant, every time I turn around, I was runny nose, clogged up sinuses. I was always, sick with something related to my lungs, and I'm pretty sure, from smoking. But
Right.
cold turkey, what happens to your body when you just say, okay, no more cigarettes?
Well, it's kind of interesting. About 8 years ago, I wrote. I was in a contest, and they said, write a hub page, which is like an online blog or an article about something that Google would really like. A lot of Google juice. And so I didn't win the contest, but I wrote my hub page on what happens to your body when you quit smoking cold turkey. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it became so popular. At one point, there were like 1,200 people a day coming to this hub page. It's not, doesn't have that volume anymore. But what I was noticing is that these were people that were basically quitting cold turkey. I think the way you quit, Tamara's probably warm chicken, but
yeah.
But what happens is, what I noticed is that these men and women were writing in to this hub page, and they were saying that they were going to the emergency room, and they were going to getting all these tests. One lady had up to $20,000 in tests, and she'd gone to the emergency room 3 times because she thought she was like dying and she couldn't breathe and she was having anxiety attacks. And this is not just a one person. This was all these people were saying, what do I do about this? And I've got acid indigestion, I've got heartburn, and they're putting me on all these high-end drugs. And if they would have just known just to that these are temporary symptoms and they will pass. And so what I've known is that it's really, really hard on the body and the mind to quit cold turkey. So when somebody quits, it's a lot better to give yourself some time for your body and your mind to adjust. There was a book written many years ago by a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz. It was called Psychocybernetics. And he said that when he did if people lost a limb in an accident, and then he would, do the plastic surgery or whatever so that they'd actually lost the limb, but he was working with them. He said that they didn't really adjust until 21 days. It takes 21 days to change a habit mentally and physically. So they usually had a phantom limb for at least 21 days. They thought that they still had their arm or their leg because their body and mind takes time to adjust to a new habit. That's why cold turkey is really very hard on the system, and it usually doesn't last in a long-term quit. Usually they go back to smoking because they're so uncomfortable or they've got so many things going on with their body. So it's different to be able to quit slowly and cement in new behaviors so that they'll last forever and you'll be happy about it.
Wow, that brought back a memory. I remember having a friend come to visit me once when I smoked, and she didn't. She was highly allergic, so I refrained. And I remember I was so cranky. Oh my God. I was so mean and nasty, and I couldn't wait for her to leave. I bet she thought I hated her. But the reality was, it was just that I was having nicotine withdrawals and I was cranky. And I know my son, at my daughter's wedding, he was like, became a whole nother person from his normal happy self. And now I'm looking at it and I see it was because he wasn't smoking. And so he was having probably really severe withdrawals. That's really crazy. So tell me, why does, how people go to the doctor and they ask the doctor, to help them quit smoking? Why doesn't going to a traditional physician really help you to quit smoking?
Well, mainly physicians are, first of all, they don't have the time to spend with you, but even if they did, physicians diagnose people and they usually prescribe pills. And so at the root of changing your smoking habit and quitting, you have to change. It's a multifaceted approach. You have to change your behaviors. You have to change your routines. And most of all of the things that a doctor would do for you, it would be just a one-dimensional approach. In other words, if they gave you Chantix or Wellbutrin, that would be just Chantix, I think, is really scary all in itself. I could talk for hours about that, but
I've
just Google.
heard on television they
Oh,
say may cause like suicidal rages, and I'm like, okay, I don't think so.
yeah, it's
Um,
the
I'd
cure
rather
there
I'd
is
rather smoke than have
exactly
that potential of going
right.
crazy.
Yeah. So that's what a doctor would do is prescribe, one of the drugs, and those like Chantix changes brain chemistry, but it doesn't change your behavior. So you still would probably want to go out, and most smokers smoke after a meal or first thing in the morning, last thing at night, and you have to really change those behaviors. And acupuncture is just physical, hypnosis is just mental. And so, if you look at all the things that are out there to help people quit smoking, um, they're just a one-dimensional approach. And what you really need is to deal with stress, deal with emotion, change your routines, change your behaviors, detoxify from the nicotine. You need to do all of those things all at once, and not all at once, but over a period of time. So you're changing it slowly, and so you're not feeling like it's not abrupt and you lost your best friend or got hit by a freight train or something like that.
So, do you have a way for people to test your program? Do you have a introductory teleseminar or webinar?
Yes, and so I have a new website which is called The Quit Queen, and I thought it would be easier to spell that than Nicotine Solutions. So so you can go to thequitqueen.com. Easy to remember. I even have a crown on the website, and you can attend a free webinar. And I have a lot of those scheduled. And you can just go and find one. Even if you sign up for it and can't make it, you can listen to the replay. And what that does is I get you started on some uh, examples of some of the things that we do. And even one of the examples that I use of one of the assignments, it's called a tally sheet. And it will actually help you cut your habit by 25% without even trying. And that's just an example of one of the things that we do. And so I'll show you how to uh, what some of our techniques are. And then if it sounds like something that you'd like to do, then you can get in and work with us in the class. So it's you can go to thequitqueen.com.
Oh, I had a question, and it's related to these days that they set aside. For example, the Great American Smokeout is an example, and where people, I guess the whole purpose is to quit smoking for a day. Is that what those are all about? And that is
Right.
supposed to do what for you exactly?
Well, and also like the New Year's resolutions,
Okay.
and the Great American Smokeout, and some of those things. And I guess I have my own viewpoint on New Year's resolutions and the Great American Smokeout, and I think it has its place, but I think it should be called the last gasp by now. I think it's kind of I think it's kind of outdated, because the Great American Smokeout was, just to use it as an example, it was created way before we had any kind of programs to help people out. And the only thing they knew at that time was cold turkey. And I can't
Mm.
remember exactly when it was created, but I mean, the concept is good. And I think, if people are thinking about New Year's resolutions or the Great American Smokeout, their concept is, I mean, most smokers, they don't even want to go to work on the Great American Smokeout because, everybody's like plastering their, you know, cubicle with little stickies saying, okay, when are you going to quit smoking? And, it doesn't give the smoker it's, if they wanted to quit, they would have done it, if they could have, so I think for sure gives people awareness. And I'm just not sure how many people have actually really quit smoking and kept being a non-smoker just for one day.
Right.
So it's nice. It's nice to mark that day and say, okay, I'm going to make some plans to be able to get some help to quit smoking. But to just say, I'm going to quit in one day, and then I'm sure the emergency rooms see a lot of people on, the next day after the Great American Smokeout, when people are freaking out because they don't really know how to handle the stress of cold turkey.
Wow, that is just interesting to me. But I think you're absolutely right. Use a day like the Great American Smokeout Day or your New Year's to like think about it and make a plan, knowing like what Lela said, it takes 21 days to 42 days to change your habit, at least 21 days. So the honest answer, and I think I really admire that you were very honest about quitting smoking today, Lela, because people do need to understand that, it isn't something that you can just go, okay, I'm a non-smoker. Like I said, for me, I had to get really, really ill. And then even then it was difficult, but I just kept, whatever, because I was saving a lot of money. And that could be a motivator. Health issues are a good motivator to quit. Taking care of your children and your family are good motivators. And I think the cool thing is that you can go to thequitqueen.com and sign up for one of Lela's teleseminars or webinars, get some information, put together a plan, and find out that maybe Nicotine Solutions and the Quit Queen, Lela, can help you out. And how cool would it be to know that 21 days to 42 days later, which is basically a month and a half or so, you could end up being a non-smoker. And while you are smoking, you don't have to quit. You learn how to deal with life without the cigarettes. And I think that's really the big secret. And I love your breathing technique, which I think you're right, because I remember one of the things when I smoked, it is when you inhale that cigarette, you're taking in such a deep breath. You do get, do they call that a smoker's high?
Yes. And and so I can just teach you how to substitute breathing for smoking. And instead of, a lot of people think that they're smoking for stress, but really it's the deep breathing that they're doing. And all you have to do is do the deep breathing, with oxygen. That's really a concept. And also, I wanted to say one other thing. I know that you talk to a lot of the people that are entrepreneurs that may not be smokers, but on the Quit Queen, the reason I developed the Quit Queen is if you scroll down, the top of it talks about the webinar, but if you scroll down, I work with lots of different niche groups, and maybe some of your entrepreneurs work with these, and I would love to work with you. Like, for instance, I've specialized in women in menopause and perimenopause quitting smoking. So if you work with in any of these groups, I'd love to talk with you. And I also have a little thing. If you scroll down to the bottom, it says, if you've already quit smoking and you have side effects, or if you, are teaching people that are trying to get pregnant, or women in pregnancy or menopause, or if you teach meditation or deal with stress or yoga. And I do have a follow-up program where I work with people that have quit smoking that want to learn about anger management or, different things like that. And I also, the reason I really specialize in women that are that are pregnant, or people that have COPD or asthma or emphysema, is especially with women that are pregnant, my program has no drugs, and we have built-in weight controls. So women that are pregnant for sure should not be taking any drugs or nicotine replacement therapy to be able to quit smoking. So I'd love to work with any of your coaches or healers that are dealing with people that need to quit smoking, because they also need to, after they quit with my program, they need support by the coaches and the healers on an ongoing basis as well.
That's really good information. So everyone, go check out Lela Bryan's thequitqueen.com. Thank you so much, Lela. I really learned a lot.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a great day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.